On this episode of Under the Hat, we are interviewing Alex Jones, who is a coach up in Northern California, coaching beach. So, Alex, welcome. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks a lot for having me on the show today.
We're so excited. I feel like I haven't seen you in a few months.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because sometimes we'll see each other every day, maybe 4 or 5 times a day for a 3 week span, and then we'll go, 6 or 8 months without seeing each other. So it's like that with a lot of people, though.
For sure. So, I want to start just by talking a little bit about you and your background and where you come from. So, let's start with that. So, high
Yeah,
school,
absolutely.
college.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this is mainly about beach volleyball, but started playing indoor and was able to play indoor in college at both Cal State Northridge and University of Hawaii. And while I was in college, I was just playing so much beach over the summer as a part of the USA High Performance Program with Kyle Stevenson. We would do a couple of practices a week with USA. We would play in all of the CBVA Opens. A lot of times we were the youngest team in that tournament. And from there, I was able to play in a few of the Junior World Championship events. So I played in the Under 21 World Championships once. We got a fifth. And then Under 23, we didn't finish as well. I believe we came 17th twice. But it was a great opportunity for me to get great coaching. I had a lot of great coaches through that program. I was able to play with a great partner and my best friend in Kyle Stevenson. And we were able to play against some of the top teams in the world. Right now, a lot of the players that we used to play against, they're doing really well on the world tour. So it's pretty nice to see, players you used to play against when you're a kid, and they're out there winning medals and doing big things. So that's good for them.
Favorite coaches?
Man, there are a lot. I would say the top of the list would be Jeff Alzina. Being able to work with him in the EDP program. Anna Collier because I was able to work with her as she was going to helping us out in U23. Wayne Hawley, certainly, Corey Glaive, and then number one would probably be Angenio Basile because he worked with Kyle and I for the most amount of time, and definitely when we were first coming up. So he did a great job uh, working on our ball control and giving us a good system to play around. And I think once we were able to develop a really good base of passing and setting, the other coaches that we worked with were able to kind of just put some sprinkles on a decent level of game.
That's cool. Who, in terms of mentors, as you know, now you're coaching, and we'll get into that, but who's been one of your greatest mentors?
Oh man, I mean there are so many. When I'm down in LA coaching in tournaments, I'll talk to every and any coach. I could say that a couple of my better mentors have been Wayne Hawley and Shane Spellman from the Tulane program because I am able to spend so much time with them and bounce ideas off them. I would say of the pro coaches, it would be Andrew Fuller. I got to work with him starting in 2014 when Lauren Fendrick and Brooke Sweat first partnered together in their journey for the Olympics, and I was essentially a practice player with that team. And I just was able to pick up on everything he was saying to those players. I was able to use a lot of those drills when I first started coaching. And this summer, I got to work with Adam Schultz. He's working with Brittany Howard and Kelly Reeves. So I was able to work with them for 3 or 4 practices, and just being able to talk to Adam and to talk to Andrew about what they are mainly focused on in the pro game, and then what they see on the junior side. It really helps me put the final pieces of the puzzle together. Obviously, I still have a long way to go in my coaching career, and hopefully I can continue to improve every year. But I definitely work most at the juniors level and am trying to see what they do in the pro game and in the college game and just find a way to meet somewhere in the middle with the way that I develop players.
That's so cool. So, talk to us about beach. Obviously, I know you help out at Santa Cruz. So, talk to us a little bit about Santa Cruz.
Absolutely. Well, Santa Cruz Beach Volleyball Club, we have a fairly small club. We will probably only train 40 or 50 players in a given season. The training group that I had, we probably had between 12 and 16 players. We had a great season the last few years, really able to meet all of the goals that we needed as a club. Um, as far as beach volleyball works at the club level, every club is doing something a little bit different right now, and every club is evolving and figuring out how they want to do it. For us, we were able to keep the amount of players that we had, at least the amount of players that I was training, at a small enough amount where felt like I was able to give them a lot of attention. I was able to train all of our players about 2 or 3 times a week. I would coach some teams in tournaments a little bit more than others. But I think what was most important for our beach club is that we had a 12 to 16 person group of highly skilled players around the same level, and players that complemented each other well. And we worked really hard to train the girls and create a lot of new concepts. And training definitely worked. Like, there would be some great practices, there would be some tough practices. But at the end of the day, when you've been able to look at what we've done at Santa Cruz Beach the last few seasons, taking the players who were already committed to schools when we got them and getting them some really strong tournament finishes, and then taking the younger players and training them and giving them an opportunity to do well in tournaments and to improve their skill set for what college coaches were looking for, and to help them through that process, like along with you, with some of the athletes, helping them through that recruiting process and making them a very marketable athlete. So over the last 2 years, it's been huge for our club that we've taken uncommitted players, given them an opportunity to find a home somewhere in college, and then really develop and evolve our committed players' games. And as far as I know, they're doing well in college right now. A few of them, Molly Eberton, Julie Devine, and Maggie Walters, are going to phenomenal programs. And even if they go out there and play the absolute best they can every single day, it's still going to be a really hard lineup to crack. And our goal for them was to do well in some of the summer tournaments. But most importantly, our goal as a club, taking a committed player, was getting them as college prepared as possible. And I think with Molly and Maggie in particular, we were able to work with them so much and talk about so many different situations that come up in beach volleyball because of the wind, because of the sun, because of the depth of sand. I really feel like we did a good job with those players, and I think that they walked on to those college teams feeling prepared for what they were getting themselves into. Because USC and UCLA, every single practice is a gauntlet. And those teams that are outside of the fifth pair are some of the best teams in the nation. And they're fighting so hard.
What are you seeing? I know we've all talked about how just there, recruiting is hitting a younger and younger age. What are you seeing, like, as you've been out there and interacting with coaches who are recruiting your kids? What are some of the trends you're seeing?
Well, that's a very good question, and I feel like I have a 2-part answer to that. So there are going to be some college beach coaches who they are recruiting an athlete against indoor universities. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I've had athletes in the past where they were both very strong at beach and very strong at indoor. And if the top programs in indoor are recruiting players very, very young, and you want that player as a beach coach, you might have to offer that kid as a very young age as well. Mm-hmm. When I first started coaching in club, it seemed as if, juniors was the youngest age that was being recruited. And now it's gone to sophomores, it's gone to mm-hmm. freshmen, and then even sprinkling in a few 8th graders here and there. So the recruiting process has started younger and younger and younger, but we are still seeing player programs as juniors and seniors in beach volleyball. Roster sizes are expanding a little bit. You are seeing a little bit less double dipping in some of the programs from indoor and beach. You look at UCLA and USC; they have been very established as beach only programs. UCLA, I believe, they use 4 players from their indoor team. USC has been quite separate for a while. Cal, I believe, is very, very separate now. So they're still at a point where having a roster of 14 or 16, they can bring in juniors and seniors very, very late. And, I'm looking to train some juniors and seniors who are playing indoor, and I still feel like I can give them an opportunity to go to a top program for beach, even if they're just stepping on the sand as a junior. So although that the recruiting process has started at a younger age, I don't feel like that door has closed. Whereas in indoor, I do feel like there are some juniors and seniors in high school that are taking a look at the top programs. And unless someone flips their commitment, those roster classes and those recruiting classes have been like really locked up for a few years.
What do you think about, these programs that have so many student athletes in the roster? What do you feel like, is there any talk about, them adding more teams and giving these athletes more of an opportunity to compete? I know they're duking it out in every practice, and it's really, really challenging. Like, our kids are reporting how difficult it is to, go to practice every day and fight every day, and you're fighting to get on that ladder. What are your athletes telling you that are at the next level, and do you feel like enough of them are getting an opportunity to compete?
Okay, so as far as instead of having 5 pairs play, you're asking if maybe 7 pairs should play?
Yeah.
They do a really good job of that in the fall tournaments, of giving everyone an opportunity, but it is very, very tough as a coach. You have a limited amount of practice time. You have a limited amount of roster combinations that you can go with. At the end of the day, a lot of these rosters that are very, very large, those are great schools to go to. And student athletes have a decision to make where, do I want to go to one of the most competitive programs that is at a great school with a huge stacked roster, or do I want to go to a different program? And, as a coach, all I can do is give them as much information as I can. And not just that, all the universities are also figuring this out as well. Beach volleyball is just such a new game. Brooke Niles and Stein Metzger, they are constantly thinking to themselves, what roster size do they want? How many players do they want on a team? How many players do they feel like they're able to develop? So I haven't talked to many athletes that have said they don't feel like they're getting a shot. I'm also still new. I've only coached club for, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years. So I don't have a senior on a program anywhere or a junior on a program anywhere. I only have freshmen and sophomores. And from what I've heard, they feel like they're getting a fair opportunity. So I haven't heard anything otherwise. But maybe it'll be different in a few years. I'll have a better answer for you on the question.
Any rumblings on new programs that are coming up that are going to announce?
No, I have not. Nothing on the rumor mill from me. Maybe I'm not as involved in that aspect in that game as I should be, but no, I haven't been contacted by anyone saying, hey, we're thinking about adding a program. Can you tell us about some players?
The momentum was so good for a while. Like, I felt like we were adding and adding and adding, and now things have really slowed down. So I just know that it's getting so competitive. And for our athletes, obviously both of us being on the West Coast, we have a lot of athletes that want to stay on the West Coast, and they all name these like super high level teams and programs. And so Sam and I preach a lot about being open-minded and casting a wide net and looking in other parts of the country so that you have that opportunity to compete. So I was really, really hoping that we'd see a huge increase in the amount of numbers in terms of college programs adding.
Absolutely. I mean, it is very amazing that I'm in my boss's office. He's got a UC Santa Barbara jersey behind me. So that's the first school that comes to mind. And then UC Irvine as well. Just the fact that those schools are on the beach and have a facility to train at and don't have a program is very interesting to me. I think down the road they will, because the Big West Conference has a conference for beach volleyball. And they do a really good job, in my opinion. I think Big Ten and ACC as well, if those schools add sand, then it's just going to, then I think almost every school will have a sand team from then on. If those schools can really take some leadership, you have the Big Ten network, you have the ACC network, and those networks constantly need content. There are only so many Bobby Knight classics that you can show on the Big Ten network. A spring sport would be perfect for them. They would be able to use it as a way to market. You could get fans interested in volleyball. You could have volleyball tournaments going on before a spring football game. You could have a fall exhibition going on before a fall game. I mean, what better way to increase school spirit than to have a beach volleyball match where, let's just say it's Wisconsin playing University of Michigan, and you have it in the parking lot of a tailgate right before Wisconsin's about to play Michigan in a football game. It wouldn't be that expensive. People love watching beach volleyball. It's one of the most popular sports in the world. It's one of the most popular sports in the Olympics. And us as USA and us as a community, we are still trying to figure out how to market it the best, how to get the most eyes on the game as possible. But I mean, I'll play in a co-ed sixes tournament, the Gillis, and it'll be packed. There'll be a bunch of people that ride their bikes down to the beach and they want to watch people play, and they want to watch great rallies. So we're just figuring out, the best way to do it and the best way to organize it as a whole.
I know you have to be dying to say something.
Oh no, I think the SEC falls into that as well. With the SEC network, you got LSU and South Carolina, and there's been rumblings when I was coaching back in the SEC. I mean that's a great point. I mean, how fun would that be with SEC football and the same thing in the fall? Are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's huge.
That's huge.
Yeah, I mean it's a lifestyle at those schools. Just being a fan of those teams.
Yes.
I wouldn't be surprised if there was just a larger supporting base for an athlete like Sarah Hughes, who had such a successful career at USC, where it's not, hey, I'm a beach volleyball fan. Hey, I'm a USC fan. And she was winning a lot, and I went to a few of her games, and all of a sudden now I'm going to become a professional beach volleyball fan, not because I started as a beach volleyball fan, just because I was a USC fan or a UCLA fan, and seeing those school spirits. And, I've talked to people about, well, what if we could do something where it was like a USC alumni versus a UCLA alumni duel? So many players from those schools are playing on the pro circuit right now, but everyone's trying to find a way. We'll see what happens with P1440. They have their next event going on in Las Vegas right now. So
yeah, I was just going to ask you, are you going?
Oh, is that the one in San Jose?
No, the one in Vegas. Are you going to the one in Vegas this weekend?
I am not. I have to coach boys club this weekend, so I wish I could go to more events, but
what did you think of the one in San Jose?
Yeah.
I mean, I quite enjoyed it. Obviously, there were some of the best players in the entire world there. That was great. What I was noticing was that it didn't appear that the fans were super interested in watching Plavins and Samoilovs play. Like, there could have been a couple coaches from a local club out there, and they probably would have been a little bit more excited. So the fact that it was world-class volleyball, you just didn't feel the energy from the crowd. Like, I'm very lucky that I've been able to watch FIV matches in Poland, watching the Polish team play and just feeling the energy from that crowd. I just didn't quite feel that in those matches there.
Do you think it's coming? Do you think they learned from their last event and then coming into this event? Like, do you feel like that energy is coming, especially with the growth? Like, there are so many up and coming young beach volleyball players. So do you feel like that will, that they'll evolve with each event and really grow it?
I sure hope so.
Yeah, us too.
No doubt.
Who are your favorite athletes to coach? Who have been some of your favorite players that you've been coaching in these last few years?
Well, on the USA Beach side, I was working with U19 girls 2 years ago, I believe. So, I mean, that roster was just absolutely stacked. Or maybe it was U17 girls. And, I would say some favorite athletes that come to mind from that group would be Maddie Cruz from Texas, would be Delaney Maple from the San Diego area, extremely talented, extremely coachable. And then on the club side, I mean, Kendall Peters, getting her as a sophomore, she was a part of a 8-person training group. I believe everyone was committed in that group except for her. We had a lot of juniors and seniors in that group. She got to learn under Amelia Smith, and just her being able to be in that group and being so coachable and do such a good job and getting so much out of those trainings. It's been really quite incredible over the last few years to see her development in the game, where she went from a, undersized defender as a sophomore who was really struggling to find a place, where she is now performing really, really well in tournaments. She was injured last season, but the season before she had a great tournament year, and I'm expecting her to come back out in the sand. And after taking a year off, being really motivated and having a great tournament year this year. And then after her, you would have to go with the BVCA champions, Molly Eberton and Maggie Walters. I mean, their athleticism and how well they move around the court. There was a newspaper article written, I believe, by the Santa Cruz Sentinel that said that was the first tournament. I can't believe that that's true. I know they played indoor together. Possible. And we've just trained them for such a long period of time. And they have constantly been going into those tournaments against other players who are going to the same schools and unable to beat those players. So you look at Maggie Walters, and her recruiting class at UCLA was, Lindsay Sparks and Jada Whitmarsh and Abby Van Winkle and Piper Monk. And Maggie was never able to get over the tournament hump to be able to finish. And Piper wins so many tournaments. Abby, they win a lot of tournaments. And to be able to win that tournament where they were able to look at a lot of their future classmates and get that, and everyone watched them play in the final, which they were down 21-8 in the first set. And Maggie goes to me and says, "Man, I'm so embarrassed." I calmed him down. It wasn't just important for them to win that tournament with all their friends watching and get that respect. And I think that gave them a lot of confidence going into their season this year. So, yeah, I mean, I love all the athletes that I coach, but those would be the top athletes that come to mind.
That's really cool.
I know I'm leaving a lot out. It's all the girls I coach. Alex Wolvari, Melina Baker, Caitlin Cummings. I love all of them. They do a great job.
That's so cool. Questions?
Who's your go-to person to call when you need to just run something off volleyball-wise, like something's going on, and you can call that person and they're going to pick up for you?
Well, I've got two guys. One is a beach guy, one is an indoor guy. So I go to Shane Spellman. I believe he's starting a program in Washington Dulles. He's the former assistant at Tulane. I was able to play and practice a little bit against Shane, and he understands the juniors game so well. As a college coach watching so many recruiting films, being at all those tournaments, he really understands what it takes to win matches at Hermosa. And then my indoor guy is a really good friend who lives in this area. His name is Chad Gordon. He used to be the volunteer assistant at University of Illinois. And, man, that guy is on a computer looking at data, looking at volumetrics. And he was so great to have around this summer because I would give him a few tidbits of beach information, and he was able to complete the rest of the puzzle for himself. I would tell him some things like, hey, we really need to make sure that this team that's undersized is attacking closer to the pins so that they would be able to hit into some more court. And he was able to complete the puzzle of, okay, well, maybe I should serve the other team down the middle so that they're further away from the pins. So just having someone that's so knowledgeable of the indoor game, that's hungry to learn a little bit about the beach, he can really help me with these athletes on the beach side just from his knowledge of the indoor game. So awesome. That was great. I think it was great for the girls too.
Awesome.
With beach, there's a lot of kids that follow us and that are fans in the Midwest and in the South and even in the Northeast. Any tips for young student athletes that are really fired up about beach and just want to play, or so hungry to play and looking for every opportunity to play?
Yeah, absolutely. So, this is probably the crux of the interview right here. And what I would say to those athletes is you might have a limited amount of tournament participants. You might be a 16 and under player, and you go to the tournament and you are able to win that tournament every single time. Continue to challenge yourself. Try to play, when it comes to a tournament setting, try and play with different partners. Try and play with adults. Try and challenge the amount of tournaments that you're in. I think that's something that's very detrimental is consistently winning tournaments. If you are winning the tournament with the same partner and playing against around the same types of teams, it's going to be difficult for you to improve your game. Maybe you're getting served the whole time. Maybe your partner is getting served the whole time. It is difficult to advance your game if you're playing against around the same teams every time and doing the same strategy against those teams. Because what will happen is you may dominate the tournament series, in your end, and then you will get to LA and play against 10 really good teams that all have totally different styles of play, that all have different shots, that all have different defenses, that all have different weaknesses. And if you only see 3 or 4 different weaknesses from the teams that you play, you are going to struggle when you come out to LA. So as far as tournament and competition setting, constantly playing with different players, constantly trying to push the envelope of the level that you're at. If you're winning 14s, go up to 16s. If you're winning 16s, find some adults to play with. And then second, and is most important, is the training aspect. I love the fact that there are so many tournaments all across the country. I love tournaments. That's a great way for you to get 6 to 8 hours of practice. Tournaments should be paired with training. Okay? Maybe you're in an area where there aren't a lot of great beach coaches. That's fine. Try convince an indoor coach to go out there and study the game and give me a call and go to a USA BCAP setting, or find a way to get a coach to work with you and to train you and constantly working on your large variety of skills that you need to work on to get to the college level. And then hopefully the tournaments can be a little bit of a test and they can test some of those skills. But I know for a fact that players will go out to a tournament and either they will get served every ball or their partner will get served every ball. And that's just not the way things are going to work in college. That's not the way things are going to work at the pro level. You have to develop a wide skill set on the offensive side, passing, setting, and attacking. And then it is also important to play a variety of different defenses as well.
We really appreciate the time that you've spent on here. And for coaches or student athletes that are playing and have questions, what's the best way to reach you?
Send me an email. You can put an email link in the bio. You can send me a message on Instagram at Coach Jones with 3 S's. Yeah, I'd say those are the 2 best ways. And I'd love to hear some feedback from players and from coaches just on the game. And if I don't know the answer to the question, what's put me in this position is I have a really nice network of people that I can ask.
That's awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me on.